Hello, I'm Dr. Flavius Osteoporoia. I'm a scientist. You're watching Health Lesson number 42 entitled, How to Protect Yourself Against an Attack by a Vampire. Now, throughout this video series concerning protection in the event of unexpected disaster, we take a hard scientific look at personal safety. Nosferatu, Vampir, Lugat, Hanya, Rakshasa, Chang Kui. To most of us, however, we know this creature as vampire. Vampire, yes. I am talking about the Walking Dead, those pasty, white-faced creatures known for their sardonic activities during the night. Those who are famous for wearing the black tuxedo, which can remain surprisingly clean even after severing the jugular vein in a human throat. But of course that shouldn't happen to you if you follow the simple instructions presented in today's lecture. What is a vampire? Identifying your adversary is an important part in any battle with the supernatural. Vampires come in many forms, identities, and non-species specific creatures. They have even been known to appear in non-physical or etheric form. Nightmares, lethargy, and even unexplained death can often be symptoms of what is referred to as an attack by a psychic vampire. This type of non-corporeal entity will feed on the victim's psychic energy or life force. Often appearing as sexual expressions in dreams, the victim is left exhausted despite a full night's sleep.
How do we protect ourselves from our own dreams? Well, the simplest solution, of course, is to just stay awake. Stimulants. Often regarded as the scientist's seducer, stimulants like coffee, tea, and methamphetamines are actually responsible for a substantial portion of the information being presented here today. Personally, I've been up for 17 days straight, and I show no sign of distortion or dementia. Now then, entering one's own mind to psychically pulverize a dimensional shape-shifting demon can be tricky, but it is possible. Repeated studies have shown that the quickest defense against psychic vampirism hasn't always been the best defense. In the beginning, subjects would repeatedly force an ice pick or some other sharp object into an ear, attempting to stab the diabolical little hellion who had taken up residency in the brain. Results, however, proved to be less than satisfactory.
In the late 19th century, a fellow named Bill something came up with the idea that melted silver could easily be poured into a person's ear in hopes that it would somehow stop an attack. This way of thinking eventually led to a more scientific approach to the subject of vampire attacks, thus leveling the playing field in the struggle of man against demonic vampire infestations.
Today we don't rely on such crude and amateurish methods to battle the undead. But as a non-vampire, you need to be well prepared for those vampiric encounters you could chance upon in your daily walk through life.
Fear is by far your worst enemy. A fear of the darkness, for example, can be an opportunity for a vampire to sink his or her claws or teeth into your neck. This fear, like all fears, can be reversed with a simple regimen of operant conditioning, positive reinforcement, and a really big flashlight. Sometimes spoken of as a revenant, the true vampire is neither alive nor dead. It is a corpse which has consciously returned from the grave, destined to torment the living. It might, on occasion, be possible to recognize your attacker if it happens to be a friend or relative who has recently surrendered the body in death. Because of this possibility of identifying a potential threat, it is always wise to err on the side of caution and only seek out the creature's destruction in secret, preferably under cover of darkness. Speaking of the darkness, the deliberate seeking and ultimate destruction of vampires is viewed as a generally bad idea in both the scientific and the mundane community at large. You, as an eager young vampire hunter, do not ever want to hear the words, "Come out with your hands up," as you are about to drive a stake into the chest of a corpse within a vandalized crypt. Wooden stakes, by the way, are recommended as the best way to permanently dispatch a vampire. It has been scientifically shown that whether the vampire was an animated corpse or just some guy dressed up for a costume party, the stake has proved to be the great equalizer time and again. Oh, yes, don't forget the mallet. The Vampire Hunting Kit appeared on the general open market about the time Bram Stoker's seminal novel Dracula was published. The items represented in these handy carry-all bags are commonly mentioned when pertaining to vampires having an origin in Europe. The tools used by the Victorian War against the undead might include, but are not limited to, the following. Acid. A simple splash across the face with any strong acid will stop most any assailant, vampire or otherwise. Fire. When you need to burn a corpse, remember that magnesium shavings will light wood even if it is wet. These tools can be found at most sporting goods stores. Pepper spray, mace. These need to be sprayed directly into your assailant's eyes. It's true that they might not stop a vampire from attacking, but at least it will give you a couple of moments to decide what you're going to be doing next. Knife. This needs to be razor sharp, as some vampires require their heads to be severed before they can successfully rest in peace. Handgun. At close range, most calibers will work nicely. However, if you can afford something more substantial, like a 9mm Glock, that will work to your advantage. Flashlight. Darkness can't work against you if you can see, and while it's true that night vision goggles can be a potential tool in your defense, this luxury is often cost prohibitive.
Digital cameras. Digital technology has given us marvelous tools to use in our struggle against the undead. Photographic evidence of vampire attack is rare, but with the new, faster cameras, a vampire's image might not prove to be as elusive as were his ancestors.
Batteries. Digital cameras and flashlights will only work if they have new, fresh batteries. Current passport and cash. If you have killed a suspected vampire, you might need to do some traveling in a hurry. And take cash with you. Lots of cash. This will help ensure that there is no paper trail on which to follow you. And of course, if your vampire assailant is from Christian lineage, you might find the use of a crucifix, blessed wafers, and a bottle of holy water to your advantage. These items, of course, are going to prove useless against a Burmese Swarmox, a Madagascarian Ramanga, or an Australian Marat, so don't waste valuable and precious time if you aren't sure, and use them only if you think they will work. The identification of a suspected vampire is typically mandated by regional mythology. Although not out of the question, it's highly unlikely that you would encounter an Irish Dyrgdu on the streets of Hong Kong, or a Slavic Mora resting on the beaches in Waikiki. If you are traveling into a location with which you are unfamiliar, it is advisable to study local vampire lore before actually leaving. Most of the material of this type can be found in libraries, and of course, it's readily available on the internet. To sum up today's lesson, we have learned that vampires come in many types, sizes, and forms. Protection against an unwanted assault from one of these usually undesirable creatures of the night can be instrumental in your survival. Using a wide range of simple weapons at your disposal, anyone can learn to prevent an attack by a vampire. That's today's lesson. I'm Dr. Flavius Osteopariah, and I'm interested in your health. See you next time.